as a sphere to start with, and we know that the Earth is made up of longitudes. Those are the vertical rings which go around the Earth, starting from the North Pole to the South Pole and back to the North Pole. And likewise we have these horizontal rings which are parallel to the equator, so that there is the equator, and these parallel rings around the equator which are circles of decreasing radius, we call them as latitudes. Now initially I'll focus on longitudes. Now we have actually a line that goes straight down from north to south, which divides it into the west and the east. So that line there is called the prime meridian. Now anything to the right of the prime meridian that's towards the east will be positive values, and anything to the left would be negative values. So we go from negative 180 to positive 180. So negative 180 is the extreme west and positive 180 is the extreme east. And what that means, if the Earth spins around, in one complete rotation, it's obviously turned by 360 degrees, and we also know it takes 24 hours to do so. So what that means, in 1 hour the Earth rotates by 15 degrees. That's also saying every 4 minutes the Earth rotates by 1 degree. So in 1 hour the Earth rotates by 15 degrees. That's what we are going to use in the calculation later on. Okay, what are the type of questions you could get on this? The first type would be, they would give you the geographic coordinate of a location and ask you whether it is ahead of GMT or behind, and by how much time. And obviously if it is towards the east, it is ahead of GMT. If it is towards the west, it is behind GMT. The other could be, they will give you 2 locations and they could ask you to find the time difference. And the third type question would be, they will give you a certain location, they'll give you the time at that location and the coordinates, and then they may ask you to find the time at another location. Now we know that time is totally longitude dependent, so we don't look at the latitudes, we only look at the longitudes. And then we also know that for every 15 degrees change in longitude, the time changes by 1 hour. Now this is something you have to be mindful about. Locations with a negative longitude are behind the local time GMT, and likewise the locations with a positive longitude will be ahead of GMT. Just want to show you how the coordinates could be expressed. You would either see the coordinates written in this form, pure decimal values. Now if it's a negative value, we're talking of longitude, so we'll focus at this one. So I must state over here that when they write the coordinates, they always state the latitude first and then the longitude. So at the moment you're focusing on the longitude. So if it is a value like 144, that means it's in the east. If it had a negative, that means it's towards the west. So that's the decimal notation, but you could even write it in terms of west. So you can see over here it's expressed in terms of 144.96 east. Now we normally don't worry about the decimal part, we'll always round it up. So I'll use this value as 145 when we are using it in calculations. Okay, so here we have a question. It says Singapore is located at 1 degree north, so we won't worry about the latitude, we'll just focus on the longitude part. And Melbourne has a longitude of 145. What is the time difference between Singapore and Melbourne? Obviously in this case the first thing we will do is to find the longitude difference. So the longitude difference will be the Melbourne longitude minus the Singapore longitude and multiplied by 1/15. And why 1/15? Because for every 1 hour the Earth rotates by 15 degrees. Now if I perform this calculation, I end up with a value of 2 hours 43 minutes. Now I could round this value down to 2 hours or 30 minutes and 30 minutes, or to 3 hours. The agreed time difference between Singapore and Melbourne is 3 hours. We've got another question over here. It says the current time in Melbourne is 12:30 p.m. on October the 4th, 2017. Determine the local time and date at each of these locations. So we've got the coordinates for Melbourne, and we obviously going to focus on longitude, so we'll use that as 145. Then New Delhi, we are going to look at the longitude as 77. Auckland would be 175, and New York is 74. Because it's west, I'll put a negative value there. So just a quick analysis. Auckland is further east of Melbourne, so what that means is Auckland will be ahead of Melbourne in time. Melbourne is further east to New Delhi, so New Delhi will be behind Melbourne in terms of local time, and New York is to the west of prime meridian, and that would mean are anyway behind prime meridian, and because Melbourne is ahead, so it's quite likely the time difference between Melbourne and New York could mean a date change as well. So it could be a day before, it could be the previous date. So we'll look at this when we actually get to the calculation. Okay, so that's the Melbourne time. So because we know New Delhi is behind Melbourne, so that's why minus over there, and that's the longitude difference between Melbourne and New Delhi. So 145 minus radar. That would mean the time in New Delhi would be 8 a.m. when it is 12:30. So this is actually giving us the time. Likewise for New York, I still use the minus option. Going to Auckland. Auckland is ahead of Melbourne time, so plus over there. This is the longitude difference, and we see that the time there would be 2:30 p.m. So this tells us that Auckland is 2 hours ahead of Melbourne.